Hey everyone, my name is Mike Vaughn,
Don Fisher.
and welcome to GVN Reviews. And we are talking Hocus Pocus 2. I don't know if you couldn't tell. I might have some ladies behind me, but yeah, I'm really excited to get into this. But I'm going to kick it off to you. And what was your kind of initial impression of the movie?
So I'm a big fan of the original.
Mm.
Came on as a kid, and then I like to say that every year since I've watched it every Halloween, whether it was on Disney, on Freeform, and its many iterations of ABC Family to whatever, it's changed so many times. And then now that we got Disney Plus, it's one of those traditional things. I'm like, hey, I gotta watch this movie at least once. So of course, when we hear announcements that Hocus Pocus 2 is gonna be made, I'm like, okay, the Sanderson sisters. But I'm trying to, I'm trying to wrap my head around what the plot is going to be. I'm like, how do you go forward with this story? After watching this, I watched it twice. My initial reaction was, it's okay. I wasn't like super blown away. I did love the that we got some backstory. I did love that it made it more modern. But after the second time I watched it, I feel a little better about it. It did what it was supposed to do. But I wasn't initially blown away.
Yeah, yeah, it's kind of funny because my husband and I watched it and we were both like, yeah, that was good, but we were like, what it he brought up a really interesting point, which was had we seen this at a more like formative age, would this be like the first film, kind of like I think we both are very similar in we watch this every year, right?
Yeah.
Like the original. So yeah, I think my and like I also watched it twice now, and I think like right off the bat I was like it was fine, like it didn't completely like face plant, but then there was elements that I think definitely could have used a little bit more like fine tuning, like it's almost there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I will say that like I want, I guess we'll kind of keep it vague for spoiler sake, and maybe if this video does really well, we can come back later and do like a full spoilery review, but we'll keep it spoiler free for now. I love the opening, like that whole like backstory. We'll just say backstory
Yeah.
seems vague enough. Like I want that as a series.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like the the young ones did a really good job. Like the mannerisms, the attitude. I was like, yes,
Yeah.
this is what we need, dude.
Yeah, and it's kind of awesome to see was it Hannah Waddingham? I hope I'm saying that right, from Ted Lasso. Um yeah, I love and adore her. She's like an actor that like I never really had known about until Ted Lasso, probably like most of us, but yeah, she's great in this. That's actually one of the points that I didn't like about it. And not her. I love her, but like her character I thought was a little underdeveloped. We can get more into that later. But
Yeah.
yeah, that gosh, that like I actually would have been completely fine if the whole movie had been like backstory. But yeah, I thought like even present day was pretty fun. I like that they do sort of nail that like really fun tone of the first one. And it's interesting because I would love to hear what you think about this too, but like it feels like they softened the eating kids aspect of it in this
Yeah.
one, which is probably fair, right?
Yeah, I definitely think that this one is more lighthearted adventure versus like dark magic trying to take over the town, which could have been and almost was set up like a dark revenge type story more than like the first one. This one was a little more lighthearted. It's a little more warmth in it. It's a little more about sisterhood and friendship versus these witches are trying to take over and cause mayhem, which is where I kind of wanted it to lead into. I think it relied a lot on nostalgia, which was cool to like point out like, oh, that's that costume and that's the the broom scene. They redid the broom scene in a different way, which is still funny. I mean, having them in even more modern times where they're in a Walgreens, that's hilarious.
Yeah, that whole scene was
yeah, so it's really good. I mean, and the teenagers, I do like that aspect of this coming of age as a young woman means a certain thing, and which I think Disney's been kind of playing around with a lot of, like with Turning Red and things of that sort, where they're trying to help this transition into adolescence, into being like, I'm a teenager, I'm growing up, which is nice, and kids kind of need to know that it's okay to go through some changes and whatnot. But yeah, I think the nostalgia can only get you so far, and like you say, I think it should have been almost all backstory. I think that would have been great to kind of see all those names we heard mentioned. If we could have got more in depth on like why they were so important, and we only get like little nuggets of it.
Like I think Disney might be playing it really close to the vest here, and I think that they kind of want to see how people like that cold open, and I wouldn't be surprised if that gets a really good response. They might do like a series or maybe a prequel movie, which I think I would pretty much love that. I will also say, and this kind of ties into your point, which is I really like how the theme and idea of sisterhood is really like follow through in a way that really feels like maybe not the most groundbreaking, but like it definitely gave it, I think, like a lot of substance that like a movie like this really needs something like that weightier theme to really just like connect it together. And I thought like sisterhood and like the coven and on all of that stuff really like tied together pretty neatly.
Yeah, and I think they also leaned a little bit more into like the aspects of being a witch, being part of a coven, with like Mother Nature being playing a pivotal role in how the witches used and gained their powers, and that oneness with nature. And you are only as strong as your coven, and that kind of leads into like your friendship and your family, and this holding it together. So the message is really good, and which is why I think like the second time I enjoyed it a little bit more, because I was, as much as I try my best not to go into a film with expectations. When it's a sequel of something that you've been watching for so long, you can't help but hold some high expectations. But I mean, and then the one thing I was really curious about was, and I won't give too much away, but the cat. It's one of those ones where like and that's why I think that they are going to do something else, because the cat had me curious the whole time. It's different this time around, and I couldn't help but like, I know there's something there, and I just don't know what. And they kept toying with it, but they didn't go fully into it.
Yeah, and it's interesting. So did you see the post-credit scene?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I really like his character. What's his name? Sam Richardson. I really like this character, that like he's like us. He's the millennial of that, per se, in this film, where he's like, I saw what happened and I loved you, and I want to see what's gonna happen. So that's kind of that's I really love the aspect of like, yeah, he's that person that saw what happened and kind of grew with us and wants to see like what can happen next.
Yeah, no, that's a really fantastic point. Like I think that he is definitely a like stand-in for millennials that like grew up watching this like us every year, like. And that kind of also brings me to my next point, which is like I like how they handled the callbacks to the original film. Like I thought it was just enough without like beating us over the head with it.
Yeah, and and it's funny because I know since the first one is like a tad bit darker, I was like I always get curious how something that's more lighthearted is going to tinker with the Dark Lord, with Satan, with Lucifer,
Yeah.
and they mention it, and it's very quick. Are they like, oh, the Dark Lord? And I think they avoided saying the word hell this time, if I remember correctly. Um, but no, yeah, it's always curious, and I did like seeing like the old costumes. We get recreations of some scenes from the original. Some of them that like weren't long enough, I thought, or they just wanted, I guess, wanted to give a nod to it. And there is more than one musical scene,
Yeah.
which everybody loves hearing Bette Midler sing. So you if you're gonna put it in there, put it in there multiple times. And also they look great for it being this big. What, 29 years, I believe. They look great.
Yeah, it's really interesting because yeah, I think that it is really fun seeing them like again. I mean, of course, I don't know if you could really do this movie without bringing all three of them back.
Yeah.
And it probably wasn't a hard sell because I know like after the making of the movie, like even before it became kind of a big cult favorite, all three actors really had a great time making it. It's funny, I got to talk to Mick Garris a little bit, who actually like wrote I guess he wrote like the original treatment that would get morphed into Hocus Pocus, the original. I know they retooled it, but I think they kept just enough to still has a story by or maybe even co-written credit, but yeah, like it's interesting because the original actually was supposed to be much darker than even what we got. So it is kind of interesting to see how Disney is sort of like softening those edges a little bit. And honestly, like I didn't mind that.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, and I've had this conversation with my wife that's always been kind of it's a growing evolution in myself where we saw so much dark stuff when we were kids,
Yeah.
and we're like, we're fine. Why you can't do that? And she's like, the times are different. People
Yeah.
respond to different things, and maybe we shouldn't have saw those things. I was like, okay, I get it. But it's hard not to like, nah, I turned out as a pretty decent person,
Yeah.
but maybe I shouldn't have, watched Chucky when I was like 4 years old. I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. It's so funny because we have like in our household we have this running thing of like 80s and 90s kids movies like rode so hard. Like we were like, yeah, like the old codgers. We were like, back in my day, if you had an adorable pet in an 80s or 90s movie, that pet's probably gonna die. And you're gonna have to watch every second of
you
it.
know, yeah. Nowadays, if an animal dies in a movie, people are gonna riot. Like
Yeah.
I remember I've been to a couple screenings where there is an animal in the film, and I've overheard people like, if they would have killed that dog,
Hmm.
I would have walked out. I would have flipped.
Yeah.
I was like, I mean, it would have been fake. What are you talking about?
Well, yeah, and like I can't really say too much about that because I'm sort of the same way. Like I won't like it'll take me a lot to like rage quit a movie.
Yeah,
but now like my husband, if it's like something where a dog dies or something, like we're both big like animal people, but
Yeah.
like it's like a non-starter if something like that happens. But yeah, I gosh, I'm trying to think what else I really like. I really like how, and it's kind of funny to talk about because I know Disney kind of has this really complicated, I guess is maybe a nice way to say, like relationship with the LGBTQ community, but like as a member of that community, I actually really like the efforts for inclusion. I liked I know the cynical part of me is like, yeah, it's like little minute stuff that they can cut out for like overseas viewers.
Yeah.
So are we there yet? Not really. Is it progress? And I'm sort of at the mind of like, I feel like I've gone so long without seeing any representation that even clunky representation is better than none. But yeah.
Yeah,
So I thought,
another buddy of mine is a critic. We were talking about that same thing last night because we were at the screening of Bros, and we were talking about Hocus Pocus 2, and we were like, it is that kind of like dance of like how much can they put in because they're trying to satisfy everybody,
yeah.
and which I commend them on trying to do, but it's like I feel like I don't know, it's hard because they're Disney, but at some point you kind of feel like lean into it. I mean, this is a community that's out there. Lean into it. It's okay, and they'll get over it, and it will become more commonplace to where you can just have it in there without having to like necessarily call attention to it. Because for I don't know how you felt, but does it feel more like does it feel forced to you? Like you may appreciate it, but does it feel like you know?
Um, I don't necessarily feel like it's forced. I think that it's um see, yeah, I've been trying to think about how I want to articulate this. Like I appreciate like there's like I'm of two minds. Like the non-cynical me is like, oh, that's great. It's it's a step forward. And then part of me is like the cynical side is again, it's like so blink and you miss it. You could cut those scenes out for other markets and you wouldn't lose any any plot or any goodwill towards China.
Yeah,
But you know, yeah, but so yeah, I don't think it's necessarily forced. I just think that it's maybe it's maybe paying a little lip service where like you said, they're trying to sort of please everybody. Um, but honestly, like I can't get over that in a main Disney movie, we don't have like an openly queer character
yeah,
or trans character. Like, get over it. We're here.
yeah.
We're not going anywhere. I mean, they like during Pride Month, I mean, Disney like markets to us like crazy. So some of it feels, I guess the best way to succinctly put it, they want to have their cake and eat it too with us.
And
Like,
I guess too, what people um may not latch onto or might not catch, which is might be a good thing as far as like going forward and trying to lean into it, is that a lot of these like witch stories, there's always like undertones that like if you're like, oh, I'm super straight, that you're not gonna catch those undertones, so they're gonna be
yeah.
there, and you're not. And you're like, yeah, I like this, and like, did you really watch Top Gun? I don't think you did, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean and Disney has a really great history of like pretty prominent LGBTQ people working behind the scenes and bringing that sort of like again undercurrent to movies where it's almost like for so long stuff like that had to be like coded. So, as you say, if you're ultra straight, you might not get that or even like, you know, somebody that's like an ally that has like gay friends, they can kind of like at least empathize and maybe see some of that like subtext that has to be sort of unfortunately still kind of buried. But hey, you know what? I will say I am glad that they're at least trying. It seems like, you know, it almost feels like you're like very old grandpa that is clearly not there yet, but
Yeah.
he's trying.
Yeah.
He's gonna get there. And that's kind of how I feel about Disney. So to just put a nice spin on it, like the optimist in me says we will get there. We're just not there yet. But like I feel like we are kind of making some strides. And I think even though like Lightyear's not maybe the best example, I do like how that started a real conversation about straight washing, which that could be a whole video, which I won't like bore you with my TED talk. But so what were some aspects that you thought maybe didn't work as well in this one?
Um, I think the conflict kind of resolved itself almost too quickly, or it didn't feel like the stakes were higher. Once like the Sanderson sisters are back, there wasn't this sense of like, oh, they're really gonna like they come back now, they're really gonna take over. It was like, are they? Are
Yeah.
they? Because I feel like a majority of it, which I understood, like, or I felt it was a good to put it in there as far as like these three best friends are there's a rift because one of them is in a relationship, and in high school it happens where, oh hell, in adult life, hey, we haven't seen you in forever,
Yeah.
are we even friends anymore? And then so seeing how they are able to resolve that is good, but I feel like it focused a lot of his attention on that, and so that conflict with the sisters, it didn't feel like the town was any danger. It didn't feel like the girls were in that much of danger, because they really didn't put them in. I mean, if anything, they lock them away at some point, and then you're like, okay, so, and then what is Sam's character gonna do? And so it just didn't. It didn't feel as high stakes as the first one did.
Yeah. No, that's a really great point. And I would say one of my like chief cons here was there's a lot of like side quests that feel almost like filler. Like the whole like getting all the magical ingredients, like scavenger hunt, it's stuff like that as much as I love the first film, I don't know if you feel this way too, but like some of it definitely does feel a little like padding for time.
Yeah, yeah, and like you said, it did do Hannah's character a disservice because
Hmm.
she gets presented in a way where you're like, oh, okay, you're like the one, you're
Yeah.
Neo, you're Morpheus right now, and then that's it. You're like, she gets presented, and she's such a big name right now.
Yeah.
You're expecting like fireworks, and then you're like, oh, that was a sparkler, you know?
Yeah. No, that was kind of weird because, and again, you know, if definitely comment if you all want a longer like spoilery video, but we'll keep it super vague. And I'll just say that like I kept thinking, as you were too, like that I wanted to see her play a more active role in the story, and she kind of doesn't. She's almost just there for exposition.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really unfortunate, especially because the costume was dope,
Yeah.
and I'm like, oh, and as soon as I saw her, at first I didn't recognize who she was because I wasn't used to her hair being that long, and then I was like, wait, oh, okay, she's not, oh, she's gone. She's gone.
Yeah,
All
but
right.
and it's funny because right before we were recording, my husband and I were talking about it a little bit, and he's like, I wonder if again maybe Disney's being a little strategic here and like setting it up where they're going to introduce her here and then she's going to play a bigger part in maybe a sequel or a series, or like maybe they just kind of want to dip their toes in it to see like how people like her character. It also almost feels like maybe there was more scenes with her that got cut out.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't know if the way it ends. I don't know if we'll who we'll see, what we'll see, or if it is one of those like, we cut some scenes out, and then when we drop it, we're gonna drop bonus scenes, and then if those bonus scenes get enough attention, then we move forward with series or another film, because we do know that Disney likes to go into the vault and take that material and create something new or live action. So it is very possible that they do that.
Yeah, like I mean again, not that I have any pull at Disney, but please do a prequel series. I would watch the crap out of that.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like I would just personally want to fund that even. I think it's such a great idea. I think, um, again, I kind of wonder if they're being smart and they want to like just see how that people like that intro, and if there's legs to actually build something around, because like there's a pretty big gap between the events that start from Hocus Pocus 2 to even like when they are like hung at the beginning of Hocus Pocus 1. I don't think that's a spoiler for like a almost 30-year-old movie, but yeah. The only other kind of issue I think I had with the movie was the trio of girls. I thought like, and I'm blanking on her name, but like the one that sort of is having the riff with the other two. Let's see if I can find.
Acid
Yeah.
as a boyfriend. Yeah.
I thought I really wanted to like I kind of understand that like you only have so much time, so not everybody can be as like well developed, but I thought they just sort of left her behind as a character.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like she was like, "Oh, we're friends again." I mean, kind of, maybe. I don't know. Like you're here. Yeah, it did kind of just like leave her floundering, and she just like, I mean, she kind of says it too, like, what happened? What is this?"
Yeah, you got to catch me up. Like, yeah. I mean, I almost think, and it's not to say that I feel like I'm a better writer than whoever wrote this. Just alternatively, I would say it would be interesting if she was maybe like actively maybe worked more towards the solution, so you could strengthen that like sort of theme about they're stronger together, which I know they I don't want to spoil it, but there is a moment when all three of them kind of have to work together, which is great. But I kind of think that it would have been maybe more complete if she played a more active role,
Yeah.
instead of just kind of she kind of just disappears for a while.
Yeah. And I did kind of like what they did with the dumb jock trope, and he kind of, it's not necessarily that he's dumb, he just doesn't understand.
Yeah.
And I like that they kind of gave him like a small redemption, and he's like, "Oh, I didn't know these things," instead of just being
Yeah.
like, "I don't care, I do what I want."
Yeah. Yeah, and again, I mean, I think this is keeping it pretty vague, but like they do sort of set it up where there is an end for a possible sequel or series. We never kind of know what Disney's gonna do, but like yeah, I mean, I kind of would like to, as much as I love the original like witches, I kind of don't, I know this is maybe sacrilegious, but like I kind of wouldn't mind if the new trio kind of just sort of came into their own. So
Yeah, because we see that you know the the power doesn't always have to rely on one witch,
yeah,
should I say. And I do think, I mean, after the success of The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina on Netflix.
Yeah.
I think there is a very like big audience that would want to see like this, young witch coven type thing, and how they go through life with these powers and trying to figure out themselves and the powers. And I think it'd be interesting to see how Disney Plus dances along that fine line of witchcraft and
Yeah.
family friendly.
Yeah, no, that's a really interesting point. And this is something that even they could do if they were a little bit worried about like having it be something for Disney Plus. They have Hulu, which
Yeah.
skews like older, so you could even kind of bridge that. But yeah, I noticed your craft.
Oh yeah.
Sure. Yeah. um yeah, gosh, I mean, I know it's off topic, but I love that movie so much. It's
Yeah.
pretty great. I like because I'm ancient. I actually saw that in the theaters.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
I think I want to say I probably saw it at home with my mom. Like me and my mom were always really well. Of course, she got me into it, but I was really big into witchcraft and movies of that sort. So, as I got older, that's the kind of realm I led towards. Whether it was anything that had like dark magic, the dark arts. I'm a huge Crow fan. Like that's one of my favorite movies of
Nice.
all time. So that's kind of the path I go down towards. And my friends will let you know, like, yeah, he's the weird one out of the crew.
Yeah, no, it's funny because I'm like, okay, so doing the math, I was like 11 at the time. So I was like, I guess like my parents were like, go ahead. Like, well, so it's funny because that is like they did the whole thing like, well, they at least tried to keep me from watching scary movies for a little while, but at a certain point they were like, just nothing too extreme, but at a certain point they didn't care. Like they cared, but they were like, you're they knew I was gonna like watch it anyway. So
Yeah, and I will say for the people that may see this who are like, I don't want my kids reading Harry Potter because of XYZ, or this movie isn't that detailed or expansive into like
yeah.
witchcraft. So if you have a fear of that, you don't have to worry. There's very little like conjuring and darkness that shadows over the movie.
Yeah, and I mean, you brought up such an interesting point too about like it's like going forward. If they do, I mean, unless it like completely like tanks, which I doubt, it will be interesting where they take this franchise. Whether it be movie or series, and kind of how they. Because I think we both agree that they did kind of do this really awkward dance around some of the like we said the darker elements of the first film. So like it'll be interesting to see like going forward how they continue to like dance around this. And again, I think the smartest move would be just again a prequel series would be, I think, kid friendly enough that it's not like something that couldn't be on Disney Plus, or if they just wanted to go with the new trio, like Hulu, would kind of be. I mean, heck, like technically, Hellraiser is a Disney movie now, so
They could also, if they wanted to, if they do want to keep it on Disney Plus, contact the producers of like Halloween Town. I think they did a pretty
yeah.
good balance of like, ooh, this is kind of spooky, but also it's lighthearted,
Mm-hmm. No, that's another excellent point because yeah, like Halloween Town is technically about witches and witchcraft, but it's has such soft edges with that material that you almost kind of forget that it really, is
Yeah,
even technically about the occult.
yeah, yeah.
So I guess we'll just wrap it up. But did you have any final thoughts on the movie?
I think that's my final thought is go in with that same love you have for Hocus Pocus. be more open-minded than I was for a new adventure. And I think it's gonna be a good it'll be a good Friday night, popcorn movie. You sit down with the family, you show your kids the franchise that you love growing up, and then you'll have this new generation of magic and the witch lovers, and it's a fun time.
Yeah. And I would definitely echo that. And I would also just add that, like, I think it would be interesting, like, if I, like, say, would show this to my niece, who is starting to really like enjoy this kind of media and is like getting old enough to sort of like be able to hang with some of the darker elements. But like it would be interesting to see, like, from a kid's perspective, like how this sort of holds up. Because honestly, like I think just watching it like as a jaded adult, I'm like, oh, I'm like nitpicking a little bit of the plot, but like I wonder if you're a kid and you're more forgiving and you're just, taking in the whole experience, if it would be maybe maybe this could be like a younger generation's like Hocus Pocus one. Because I fundamentally think that it is a good movie. It's just, I recognize some of the clunkier elements. But again, if you're a non-cynical kid, you might not really think about that. So
Oh, and it does. Lastly, I'll say it does. You can't watch this first and then go back and watch the original,
yeah,
kind of like a prequel type of sense, because you don't have to have seen the first one to like fully enjoy this. And it would
yeah.
be fun if it is your first time seeing this, to then go back and watch the first one, like, oh, so that's where that came from, and that's who that. So I think that'd be cool too.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is like a self-contained movie. Like again, they do fold in the first film, like they use clips, and there's like a reference to Thackeray, and that was really cute. I like that moment with the cat, and it's like, no, it's just a cat. Like, but yeah, you definitely don't really need to appreciate the first film. I guess you could just go into this with, I mean, they catch you up pretty much in a pretty clever way. So yeah, I think it was really fun. If you would have to give it a rating of 5 hungry Roombas, what would you?
I'd go with a solid out of 5. I give it a solid like 3.5.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm hanging. I think I would probably give it a solid like 3 out of 5. It's a fun enough movie. I definitely know that it feels like it could have been more complete, maybe had it been like another draft or something. But like, I had fun. I would definitely watch it a third time. Like, it's funny. There's some movies where like I have to watch for reviews, and like sometimes you have to watch it multiple times to just sort of get everything, and sometimes I dread it, and then this time I did not, so that's something.
Same here.
Well, yeah, this was a lot of fun talking about Hocus Pocus 2. And as always, if you enjoy this content, consider giving a like, a comment, comment below and let us know what you thought of Hocus Pocus 2. If you're a fan of the original, what's your favorite characters? Are you dressing up like any of the characters? Let us know. And as always, thanks for hanging out with us.
Peace.